So today we're tracing the sort of the secret history of AI strategy.
Right.
We're looking at how just three simple empirical rules have dictated billions in investment.
And, how those rules keep changing constantly.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into the evolution of neural scaling laws.
That's it. These are the laws that basically govern how neural networks get better when you give them more.
More size, more data, more compute.
Right. And our mission here is to track the strategy through three really distinct and often contradictory phases.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. This all kind of kicks off around 2020, right?
Yeah, with this early research showing that performance improves predictably. It's a power law.
A function of model size, data set size, and compute. But what was the key takeaway then?
The crucial read, the one that set the course, was that bigger models were just more sample efficient. They learned better from the same data.
And that finding became the doctrine.
It became the doctrine. Bigger is better. If you had a fixed budget, the smart money was on scaling up the model size, the N, as much as possible.
And we saw this play out in the real world with models like GPT-3.
Oh, absolutely. GPT-3 is the classic example. A massive 175 billion parameter model.
But trained on, what, comparatively little data.
That's the kicker.
Yeah.
Only about 300 billion tokens.
Wow.
Yeah, which gives you this tiny token to parameter ratio. We're talking less than 3 to 1.
So the whole industry was betting on a model size being the bottleneck.
Completely. And that defined the entire AI development race from 2020 all the way through 2022.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting because billions of dollars were spent building these gigantic models. They were, only for DeepMind to come along and say they were, what, fundamentally inefficient?
Exactly that. A 2022 paper from DeepMind just drops this bombshell. They argued that models like GPT-3 were, and this is their quote, significantly undertrained.
Undertrained. So they were too big for the amount of data they were seeing.
Precisely. They basically proved the industry had been misallocating its resources, wasting time and money.
And they came up with a new rule for it, the training compute optimal scaling law. What was the insight there?
The key was balance. It's so simple in hindsight. For a fixed amount of compute, you have to scale up your model size and your data together.
And they gave us a number, a ratio.
They did. The famous chinchilla ratio.
Oh,
Roughly 20 tokens of data for every one model parameter.
20 to 1. That's a huge jump from less than 3 to 1.
A massive jump. And the proof was just decisive.
How so?
DeepMind used the exact same compute budget as their own huge model Gopher to train a new model, Chinchilla.
Okay.
But Chinchilla was 4 times smaller, and it uniformly and significantly outperformed the larger one on everything.
So that was it. The old strategy was just wrong.
Dead wrong. And that immediately kicked off the high-volume data race.
Which brings us to today, to the current phase. But things shifted again, didn't they? We didn't just stick with the chinchilla ratio.
Not at all. Almost immediately, the field redefined what optimal even means.
How?
It was no longer about minimizing the one-time training cost, capital expenditure, or CapEx. It was about minimizing the cost to run the model, the long-term operational cost, or OpEx.
So it's an economic epiphany. It doesn't matter if you save a bit on training if the model is too expensive for anyone to actually use.
That's it. And this led directly to what we're seeing now, the overtraining doctrine.
Can you give us an example?
Just look at a model like Llama 3's 8B version. It was trained on 15 trillion tokens.
15 trillion. What does that work out to as a ratio?
It's almost 1,900 tokens for every parameter.
Wait, that is nearly 100 times more data than Chinchilla said was optimal for training?
100 times more. That's right. Labs are now spending so much more upfront to create these smaller but much sharper models.
Because they're drastically cheaper to run at scale.
And they have to use all that data because those simple power laws are starting to break down. You get this effect called subscaling.
Subscaling? So you're saying that just adding more and more data gives you diminishing returns.
Exactly. A lot of the data is redundant or it's low quality. So the ultimate bottleneck is no longer pure data quantity.
It's data quality.
That's the modern frontier.
So what does this all mean for you, for the learner, especially if you're trying to adopt AI in, say, an enterprise setting?
I think the most actionable research for you right now is something called scaling laws for transfer. Because these laws finally let you quantify a really important economic trade-off.
And that trade-off is?
Should you pay for a massive pre-trained foundation model? Or should you dedicate that same budget to collecting your own high-quality proprietary data to fine-tune a smaller model? The math is finally there to help you make that call.